Coach Robinson, you guys are signed two defensive ends, Kenny Barnes out of the Phoenix area, out of Glendale, and Dominique Austin out of L.A. Could you just talk about Kenny first and what you expect of him and what kind of player he is?
Well, Kenny, Chris, is a guy that, in fact, I just spoke with Kenny the other day about this. He's a guy that we have talked to about getting ready to play. And the reason that we say that is because Kenny has exceptional explosiveness. He's a quick twitch guy. And with what we're seeing offensively in this league now, the premium for defensive ends now is much more on movement skills than it is on smash mouth. We're just not seeing very much of that outside of a couple of football teams. So he's the kind of guy that has the qualities that I think could help us very quickly. Now, our depth is better than it's ever been, but if we were to have some injuries, Kenny's a guy that I think can get ready to play very quickly. We love his attitude. We had him in camp. We had a chance to work with him for 3 days, and we absolutely fell in love with him in camp. So he's been a guy that we've targeted ever since last summer and really think he's going to fit well into our defense.
Okay, and the other defensive end, he's listed as a defensive end by some. He's listed as an offensive guard by some, a defensive tackle prospect by some. I guess technically he's going to come here as a D-end. He's not going to end up there most likely, but could you talk about Dominique Austin a little bit?
Well, I'm thrilled to have Dominique at the defensive end position, and we'll certainly that's the position that we want to look at first because that's where we think he can play. And if that changes down the road, then that's obviously it'll be in his best interest and in the team's best interest. But we're going to start him off at defensive end, and a guy that we didn't have in camp last year, but that we saw on film during the season. Very, very impressive guy. I think he's got a lot of skills. I think he's going to be a guy, Dominique, when you look at him, that's going to get a lot bigger, and he's going to put on some weight. And hey, he's got a wonderful frame. And Chris, in our time that we spent together on his recruiting weekend, couldn't be around a fine young man. His father was with him, and just really, really good people, and the kind of people that we want to have in this program. So we're thrilled to have him and look forward to his arrival.
Would he be more of a contained type end rather than Kenny Barnes seems more like you said, he's more of a twitch guy, just a pure speed edge rusher, and Dominique would be the other kind of contained, more pursuit. Reverse pursuit kind of guy?
Well, I think if it depends on what you're doing defensively, but Kenny's going to be the guy that's probably going to be a little bit more of an edge type player and rely on his quickness. Dominique, I think, in the long term, will be the kind of guy that can rely on his strength and his size much more than maybe Kenny will be able to. Maybe when you think back to the difference between a 280-pound Marcus Smith and a 240-pound Copeland Bryan for guys that have been following the program. Two great players, but two very different players. And I think that's what you're looking at here. Dominique's going to be a lot bigger. Kenny's probably going to be able to compete better with his speed.
Well, you touched on the depth that you have at defensive end now. You did lose two, Jason Parker, Lewis Holmes. Both of those guys will probably be on NFL at least scout team rosters next year. Mm-hmm. But you have a lot of young talent coming back. You have one senior, and I think everybody else is just about underclassmen. I know you're excited about it. Could you talk about the depth and how Kenny and Dominique would fit in as far as redshirt goes? Maybe they could see the field, maybe they won't. Yeah. How do you think they'll fit in?
Well, it's a great question, and it's the best depth we've had since I've never been so excited, not only about the depth, but about the chemistry that I have at the defensive end position. Jonathan Turner will be a senior. He'll start for us at the left end. I think JT's been a very productive player. He's been up and down. He's had some health issues, but I think he's going into his senior year healthy, physically and mentally, and we expect it to be a great season. Rick Elmore right now is penciled in at the right end. And Rick didn't play enough last year. We because of the seniors that we had and the experience that we had, we just couldn't get him enough reps. But when you go back and watch the reps that Rick played last year, Ricky's going to be a tremendous, tremendous player and is doing some great things. And I couldn't be more excited about him. And then backing those two guys up, DeAndre Reed and Brooks Reed, who people haven't seen a lot of them, but when they do, they're going to be really impressed. And we've never been able to talk about four guys, I don't think, with this type of ability. Now you look at Ron Jackson as coming in as the fifth guy, and if we were to have an injury, we need Ron Jackson to get ready, and as you know, he missed the entire season with the hip injury, so it's almost like starting over with Ron because he basically could do nothing while he was here but rehab, but he's learned the defense, and we need him to step in. Now, depending upon the development of Ron is where Kenny and Dominique will fit in. Again, I think probably because of the quickness, Kenny might be suited a little bit more as a guy that we might look at a little bit quicker. And if something were to happen to one of these guys injury-wise, somebody's got to step in as the fourth guy and be ready to play. Is that going to be Ron Jackson, who we've seen very little of to this point, or is it going to be Kenny, or is it going to be Dominique? And they're all going to be given every opportunity once they're here.